Public comment, we have a motion by Mr. Witt with support by Mr. Capital to contract with Comcast for 3 years at a rate of $916.25 per month, plus taxes for phone and internet service. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Next on our agenda was an emergency addendum, item F2, regarding Second Chance Network. Board members, I believe back in March of this year, if I recall, we received a request from Second Chance Network, per our policy, to inquire regarding street solicitation. So I will take a moment here to read our policy concerning charitable street-based solicitations. This was adopted back in May of 2012. Requests will be considered from local, charitable, nonprofit organizations to safely solicit funds within the public right-of-way on the streets of the township. The Township Board of Trustees will review the applicant's request for approval or denial. Organizations interested shall contact the clerk's office for an agenda request application for street-based solicitations. The completed application shall be submitted to the clerk's office at least 45 days prior to the requested date of solicitation, along with the following information: a letter to the township outlining the name of the organization, the purpose of the organization, and the soliciting event, date and time of solicitation, the location of solicitors, and a contact person with their telephone number. A summary and financial statistics about how their fundraising helps the community, and a copy of the liability insurance naming the township as an additional insured. Organizations can receive approval for only one weekend period, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, per calendar year. Solicitors shall not park vehicles in the road right-of-way or medians. Solicitors shall be courteous and friendly with motorists. So there is basically then an application process. The organization did apply with us. We had, I guess I would characterize it as several communications. Ultimately, their request came down to asking for solicitation the weekend of, I guess it would be 11 and 12, June 11th and 12th. Our next board meeting is June 13th. Mr. Meadow is here from the Second Chance Network. He and I had gone back and forth through the phone conversation, discussing it. There were some documents provided regarding the legal requirements associated with this, and so I did prepare some statements. I'd like to have a chance to read that or explain our position, and then if a motion is in order, we'll open up the floor for public comment at that time. In 2011, Michael Meadow was the director of Give a Gift, a nonprofit that engaged in street solicitation here in Harrison Township. After the weekend that they were solicitors, we received several complaints about the behavior and demeanor of the solicitors. Mr. Meadow is now here before this board requesting permission to once again engage in street solicitation, this time as a representative of the Second Chance Network. Per our policy, we requested financial information about the charity. Their most recent 990, which is the nonprofit equivalent of a tax return, shows that in 2015, they had income of $176,027. Further, the 990 states itemized expenses as follows: $28,116 paid to Michael and Jamie Meadow, $80,820 paid for employment, $27,940 paid for accounting, legal, insurance, and office expenses, oftentimes referred to as overhead, $10,005 paid for rent, utilities, and telephone, and $5,037 paid for advertising and postage. So a total of expenses of $151,918, or over 86% of the total revenue listed for 2015. A search of information about this charity led to the following newspaper article titled "Panhandlers Told to Leave Mount Pleasant." The definition of a panhandler is one who panhandles or to accost passers-by on the street and beg from them. The article I have here It says, a group of people saying they represent a nonprofit in Royal Oak was told Wednesday to leave Mount Pleasant after police received several complaints. It goes on to explain, Mount Pleasant does not have an ordinance against panhandling. Callers were complaining that the people were blocking and impeding traffic. As more complaints were voiced about traffic issues, Mount Pleasant police asked the group to leave, and they complied. I also found a posting on a website called Indeed.com, and it's in essence a place to find jobs and find and post resumes. The posting was just recent from Second Chance Network in Bay City, Michigan. The job is $9 an hour temporary work. It reads as follows: if you have the passion to help people, self-motivated, reliable, trustworthy, and looking to earn a decent weekly paycheck, please visit our website at secondchancenetwork.org. On our site, watch the training video, fill out the online application and paperwork. The work schedule is Wednesday to Saturday from 7:30 a.m. to 7 p.m., 10 hours per day with 3 30-minute breaks, $9 per hour or $360 weekly. Must have a reliable vehicle to get to and from our work sites and the ability to stand on your feet for 10 hours. Serious inquiries only. Salary $9 per hour. From the Second Chance Network Facebook page, I'll read the following. Need a job? Help us help the homeless. We are looking for people with a great attitude who are able to be on their feet all day, have a valid ID and social security card. You must want to make a difference and have a positive attitude. Please share. This may help someone on your friend list. The position is collecting donations at red lights, and it can be a permanent job. If you work all of the hours, 4 days, Wednesday through Saturday, you'll receive your check of $360 on Monday. Conversations with other municipal leaders has revealed that our peers in other communities have received complaints about Second Chance Network when they solicited in their communities. The Roseville City Council had denied Second Chance Network for several years. Council members objected to their practice of paying street solicitors. Our request that we received from Second Chance Network came with a letter from their law firm, the Bodman Group, or Bodman PLC, and a telephone conversation that I had with Mr. Medaw came with the threat that if we don't grant their request to solicit, they would sue for a violation of their civil rights. So we have paid solicitors threatening to sue if we don't grant their request. I have never received a request for street solicitation that was accompanied with a legal opinion. I have to believe that many other municipalities have also struggled with this charity. In essence, we have an applicant claiming that 90.5% goes to the cause or expenses related to the cause. In reality, it appears they are a charity which pays their solicitors $360 per weekend to collect donations from our residents, and then resulting give less than 14% of that to presumably charitable causes. I know of no other charity that pays the people who collect donations in the street. I do not believe that this model of a charitable organization would meet the definition of charity for most of our residents. However, I have received legal advice from Mr. Huth about this matter, and I think at this time, Mr. Huth, I'd ask if you might be able to give the board some direction on the request.
Always, thank you, Mr. Verkest. Always a challenge when you're advising the client in front of people.
Before you give us our advice, can I
Yes,
just
sir.
mention something?
Yeah.
Before you give the advice on what you're gonna give us? Our policy is pretty clear. Comes with an application, 45 days, blah, blah, blah. I have nothing in front of me. Didn't follow our policy.
No, that's not true. That is not true. So let me just make
Okay,
sure.
well, I'm just saying, as a board member, I have not talked to these people, I
Sure.
don't know these people, I have nothing in front of me.
Understood. Their application did come 45 days prior, and they did follow the application process. It was, in fact, everything else about the application process and the charity that caused this pause. We found ourselves up against a deadline. We'd indicated that the next meeting that we could put them on would have been June 13. It was their position that that was unacceptable because they'd applied in time, followed the policy, and we're gonna just solicit anyways. So I thought it best that at least the matter come before the board, but that communication probably occurred on
Do
Friday.
you have the Bodman letter that we can read?
I do have a letter from Bodman.
Can I read it, please?
Sure.
While
Correct me if
Mr.
I'm
Ruth is
wrong,
talking?
Mr. Supervisor, but hasn't this charity been before us before?
Yes.
Second Chance Network has not formally appeared before the
Well,
board,
Bodman was our attorney, and I can't believe that they sue on behalf of this organization.
so
Because they used to be our attorney.
is it all right if I ask Mr.
No,
Huth?
go ahead, that's what I was.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Huth?
Well, what has happened recently with our courts is they've said solicitation and asking for money is the same thing as standing on the corner and saying, vote for Ronald McDonald for president. It's a First Amendment right. So if the board accepts the holding the Federal Court of Appeals out of Cincinnati in a case in which Bill Schuette argued against, that you have a constitutional right to solicit and ask for money, the next step then is the applicant here being treated the same way as other groups that have come before you? So the analysis would start down that road. Now, this applicant, as I understand it, is asking for a different period of time than we've allowed other groups. But the fact is, we have allowed other groups to solicit and make requests from people for donations. So tonight, really, my view is that you have to treat this group in front of you tonight as you have treated other groups. Can't be treated differently. That's what the federal courts have said.
Right. So our review of this isn't to say, well, I approve of this charity's bylaws or the way in which they solicit donations, but I don't approve of this other. If they ask, we've got the First Amendment right issue here. And we certainly can say that our policy, that we require other charitable organizations to follow and have required since 2012, we can certainly require that they follow that policy, assuming that it doesn't violate their First Amendment rights.
Right, and I would think it's even fair to, since they're here, to ask them if they would agree to follow our policies.
Sure.
That other groups have agreed to do.
Right. And so I believe, based on the conversations that I've had with Mr. Huth, that we do not have a choice in approving this request. I do believe, however, that we do have a right to require them to follow the policy and the rules we have, just like all the other charities that we've approved in the past. So their request was for a Wednesday through a Saturday, and our policy states that the approval period is for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and that we grant that permission once per calendar year. Certainly, parking vehicles in the road right-of-way or medians was not a part of their application. So that's the question before us. I believe we don't have a motion, so we haven't opened the floor for public comment, but we have Michael and Jamie Medaw here, I believe. And so now it seemed like an appropriate time to ask if you believe you could follow that section of our policy.
Yes, we do. I would like to address some of the concerns. We do. We want to keep everybody involved. We want to keep everybody as happy as we possibly can. You can't make all people happy at all times. I thought it was a very interesting play on the numbers. We do hire from Indeed. We do pay $9 an hour. Everything was factual. Our mission statement is to help those who are homeless or in danger of becoming homeless. We go to the local charities. We're also in the process of becoming, We're also in the process of becoming a member of the Macomb County Homeless Coalition. But we go to the shelters, and we do first target them to come out and work. Unfortunately, not everybody there wants to work. Some of them are happy with their situation. The $9 an hour, those people who are taking those jobs, those are minimum wage jobs. They do fall under our definition of endangerment of becoming homeless. Last year, we paid out $109,470 to those individuals who are homeless or in danger of becoming homeless. This is equivalent to 62% of all dollars raised. That's only one of our programs. We also provide transportation to and from work. We also provide clothing, and we also provide food. 62%. The reason it's our biggest program is because we believe in order to get these people back on their feet permanently, they have to be held accountable. And when you work for what you get, it changes your perspective on things. These people have to go through a new process of disciplining themselves. So our number and our stance is 109,470, fits within our mission statement of those who are homeless or in danger of becoming homeless, as they are, as that statement is registered with the state and Bill Schuete's office. As far as the matter of complaints, this is something that's baffled us. So,
Excuse me, I guess I'm not quite sure. I'm the president of the Second Chance Network, and we have never been in this township. How is it that our organization can already have complaints?
Yep, so I've not said that I've received complaints from your organization in my community. I can say that the organization that Mr. Medaw represented 5 years ago solicited in our streets one time. We received several complaints, including written complaints.
So you're
And
holding-
then, I'm sorry, I'm answering your question.
Continue.
And then in addition, my peers in other communities have shared with me that they've received complaints in the communities in which you've participated.
Okay,
And I
so-
will tell you myself, the last time I rolled through one of yours, your people were all in front of the car and this and that. I told my wife, I looked over at my wife and I said, that's that Second Chance Network that we turned out.
okay, when you say all in front of the cars, what
I'm
is?
just saying my own.
Sure, could you explain what do you mean by all in front of the cars?
Well, when you pull up to a light, normally the people that we've had here, St. Hubert's Knights of Columbus is one that they sort of just.
Cancer Society,
Yeah,
the
Cancer Society.
firefighters have done it.
Firefighters, they have the.
But-
booths.
What were
sorry,
they doing, I guess
They,
is,
they sort of just walk in a non-threatening way around you with their car.
They
Your
stay out in a
people
on a
are
green light.
aggressive. They're walking in and out of traffic. Quite honestly, I'm surprised a couple of them didn't get hit.
Okay,
Because they're
well-
not being very safe, and I'll tell you that.
oh,
And I'll tell you
this
that.
needs to be addressed.
And that was
Absolutely.
my, I can tell you where it was. It was at 13 Mile, in Little Mac.
We
where
actually,
the Myers is and everything there.
That-
You had all of your people all over the place.
how long ago was that?
Oh, it was before my surgery. You know,
Excuse me,
2015.
can I just ask a question?
I'm just saying, that
I
was
would
my
like-
experience.
I would like to address that. First of all, we submitted our intersection rules, which I'd like to bring up to you. Each person has to sign these. We also have a video on our website. We are the safest organization. We're the only organization that doesn't stand out in the street when that light turns green. The other organizations that you brought to the point, they're very unsafe. Someone will get hit in that organization. I can guarantee it. This is my 10th year of doing it. I've done over 400 of them. 0 incidences. And the reason is that we have the strictest policies. And I'd like to bring these up so each one of you can take a look at what each participant has to sign. Second of all, we put cameras at each intersection. So the allegations or the complaints that are brought forward to us, we look them over. And what we found, what I was going to address before, is there is a certain group out there that seems to believe that these are their streets. And from what I heard earlier, I think you guys might be aware, and some of you might even be members. We have recently sent a cease and desist order to a person who seems to be heading up this situation of calling in complaints. He admitted that he called MDOT. He admits that he calls the police. He makes claims that we are collecting funds that they believe belong to them. That has no merit at all. We have no tickets. We have no incidences.
I don't even
So
know who that individual is.
if
I certainly
we-
couldn't speak for them.
I'd like to first bring up the rules, the intersection rules, if I could bring those up.
Sure.
And have each one of you guys take a look at them. It specifically says, absolutely nothing can be aggressive. We tell them not even to make eye contact. They're to smile and wave. They can't even talk to you. That's part of their rules. Their rules are smile and wave. Don't make eye contact, walk down the center. Before that light turns green behind them, they have to be out of the street because of safety concerns.
So you may see our people dart out real quick because they don't want to impede
There's a big
traffic.
intersection. I was in the right-hand lane. It's 6 lanes at that point
Mr.
with the
Supervisor,
turn.
I think we've exceeded the 3.5-minute time.
Well, we
Well,
don't
I
even
haven't
have
been
a
able to
motion.
address everything that he
Yeah,
brought
and-
up either.
absolutely. So a couple of things here. One is that per our attorney, we thought that it would be reasonable, and the suggestion was made as to whether or not you believed that it was fair that you could follow that policy of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and one solicitation per year.
That is correct. We
Okay,
can.
and that's an acceptable, you can do that.
I just, the slander and the libel, we've recently taken a stance of zero tolerance on it.
I'm sorry, could you just confirm the question? You're willing to
I
stick to Friday,
will
Saturday, and
confirm
Sunday
again.
once per year?
I will confirm again, yes, we agree to
Okay.
all
And
of the
then- and
terms.
I would take exception with the slander. Everything that I've read here is factual. The numbers come from your 990 statement. I've read,
That's how you interpreted them, and that's, I think that is
I've literally
insane.
used the verbiage that you've described. I mean, true or false, $28,116 of the money that was collected in 2015 was paid to the two of you.
That is correct.
Okay. You had itemized rent, utilities, and telephone for $10,005.
Because in order for people to have shelter, we have to have utilities.
But I mean, I quoted your numbers. They're
Right.
itemized in your
Well, that's
990.
part of the program, so that's money that's going to that program.
Right.
Of
So
course
that's
we
not
have
slander,
utilities.
It's not a twisting of the numbers. I've
Yeah.
read what you've provided,
Of
sir.
course, so these are items that are being paid out to the program. The 16% absolutely has, I don't know where you pulled that number out of. I mean, if you were looking, now granted, I don't like, we're currently in the process of getting a new accounting firm, but it's not straight to the point like I have seen in the past, better 990s, and we're working on that. But if you had questions and your numbers came up differently, my question is, why didn't you call me? Because I could have talked to you about them and I could have explained them to you. We, within our guidelines, homeless or in danger of becoming homeless, we provide jobs. $109,470 was paid out to that program. We provide,
Yeah, but that wasn't
You
the
know.
total paid out for jobs. That was the total itemized on your line item. The
she-
109,470 includes 80,820 for employment.
I don't see the 80,000. I don't know
Yeah,
which,
yeah, it's on the itemized statement, page 2. It's an itemization of line 6C. Supplies, $7,209. Transportation, which I presume to be a charitable function, in my analysis was $6,499. Clothes, $2,715. Again, I concluded that as charitable activity. Shelter provided, $63.73, and food for the hungry, $58.54. I see those, in my estimation, as legitimate charitable contributions. Paying $80,820, to me, certainly seems a lot different than any other street solicitor, and different than any street solicitor that I'm aware of.
we are different. That's
So are
for
you
sure.
saying,
That's our mission
are,
statement.
are you selling that your charity essentially is, I'm gonna go hire people to collect money on the street, and that's what my charity is?
No, that's
Yes,
not,
That's what you
Stated.
just said.
no.
That's what you just
That-
said. You just said you put homeless people to work, and that was your core principle.
There you go.
That you put the homeless people to work, collecting $9 an hour while you collect the management fee. Are you out of your mind?
First of all.
Go sell that to the IRS.
It's-
Go sell it to the IRS.
I will, and I have for 10 years.
Nonsense. Nonsense. I know all the attorneys down there because one of them was my roommate from college. And I can tell you,
Fantastic.
that's not a charity.
You know,
I'll
if-
tell you
It
right
is
now,
a
it's not
charity, and we're
charity.
telling you that it's part of our mission statement to
gonna tell you it's not
provide
a
jobs.
charity.
I'd be very
We provide jobs.
Hold on.
Oh, come sue me.
Hold on.
Oh, please, come sue me.
Hold on just a minute.
Mr. Verkowski.
Come
First
sue
and
me.
foremost-
You're a scam.
First of
Oh.
all, first and foremost,
I hope that that's on record, too.
Oh, it is.
first and foremost, we don't even have a motion here, and we're engaging in a discussion and a debate, which is typically not what we do. We'd open the floor to the individuals to ask if they were willing to follow the policy, the same policy that we've applied to any other charity that's appeared before us when asking for permission. We've received legal advice from Mr. Huth that suggests that we'd be at risk of violating a First Amendment right if we denied this charity the right. So first, I'd like to ask, I would propose a motion, and although I can't make one, I would propose a motion that we allow the Second Chance Network to solicit in Harrison Township on June 10, 11, and 12 of this year, assuming that they follow the policy.
I think everybody needs to read this letter, because I'm not reading that in here.
Mr. Huth, correct me if I'm wrong here. What options are before us?
It says
And I-
right here, let me read this. It doesn't say that we have to choose to accept. What it says is, If any municipality to which you submit this letter should choose to deny or effectively deny Second Chance its right to elicit solicitations, please contact us so we may take appropriate legal action. But if you read the paragraph prior, it doesn't say that they have a right to solicit in a street in your municipality.
No,
It
the-
doesn't say that.
Right.
Just as other
Okay?
organizations
It
have,
doesn't say that.
The Knights of Columbus have,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, hold on. Steve.
unless you were going to
Oh,
But you
discriminate.
know,
Hang on
the
just a
Knights-
minute.
The Knights of Columbus and the firemen, they actually give the money to people to help them out. We know
They,
that.
So do
they
we.
also,
Shelter and
We
jobs.
know
they
that. I will
also
debate that
support,
all day long.
they're the largest supporter, if you look under hate groups and nonprofits, the Southern Poverty Law Center, you might want to look that up. They're the largest supporter of a nonprofit hate group, so I'm glad that you decided to back them up. You might want to consider that and do your research before.
Okay,
Mr. Verkowski,
Yeah, you guys.
yeah, we gotta, just hold on a minute.
So a First Amendment right, let me ask you this, Mr. Huth. A First Amendment right, so somebody could go out there while they're out there and say, please do not donate to these people. That'd be a First Amendment right, correct?
Well, there's always limitations of what you do with a sign in a public way, but generally speaking, they have a First Amendment right, and everyone else has their First Amendment rights.
Just like, you know, Mr. Trump, people go and stand, you know, since that's in the news, they're protesting him, so you can protest this group, correct? It works
There's,
both ways, correct?
There's ways to legitimately
Thank
and
you
not
very much.
legitimately make protests, and I would agree with that.
Right.
As this
However,
began-
though, point of clarification, Mr. Huth, perhaps you can, in plain English, advise us what an appropriate action is at this time.
You know, so you want me to publicly discuss?
No,
Wait,
what
wait,
options
can I
are before us? What is your legal recommendation, your advice, per their request to
And if
solicit
Rob
in the
is
street
giving
of
us
Harrison
legal
Township?
advice,
Mike?
why are we doing this in open session in case we get sued?
Well,
I have
because
a
it's
que-
very
I-
difficult to do in closed session, because there's not pending litigation. They're skilled in the rules. The federal district court says if they collect $1, Bodman gets all their legal fees. So those are the rules we're stuck to play with, and as a municipal attorney, I'm stuck giving you the advice in front of the whole world, including somebody that could be sitting across from me on the other side of the aisle in a courtroom. So that's the rule.
Since-
My advice is you grant the application.
since we're having this discussion, I have a couple of comments.
Me too.
One,
Yep.
can we, in the 2 years I've been on the board, we've never had a debate. So can I ask that as a point of order, we don't have a debate?
I agree with that.
All right, so that if our, the representatives want to make a comment, we let them do that, but I really am uncomfortable with this debate that's going on, number
Agreed.
one. And while Mr. Huth has said this in many different ways, there have been a statement made that we can only approve this. Okay, what I would like to ask is very directly, if, and maybe you've answered it and it's just a moot point. If we deny this, in your opinion, it's likely that there would be a lawsuit? It's likely? Can you answer
Let
that?
me just say this, there's grounds for a lawsuit. I don't know what these folks
Okay.
would try to pursue it or not.
There
There's
are grounds for a lawsuit.
Right.
And let me ask further, if a lawsuit were filed, what would be the likelihood of the township prevailing? Can you answer that?
I think that's probably
Wouldn't
more
know
than
until
Mr.
you see
Huth
the
would feel
lawsuit.
comfortable answering right now.
Okay, if you can't, you can't.
You wouldn't know until you saw it.
It's, if we don't grant and the lawsuit's filed, I would think that we'd have our work cut out for us to defend it.
That's good enough for me, thank you.
We know Bodman.
And,
Good enough for me.
Bodman never did us any favors.
well, and,
Okay, I
yeah.
have a few comments. This gentleman's been before us before, and
I don't believe he has.
I believe he has.
I believe he has submitted requests, but he's asked
this
to be.
charity.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But he's been before us.
He was before the Board of Trustees in in March of 2011.
Right. So, I recall that. And he also made a few remarks while he was standing at the podium about local shelters. So what I would like to do is make a motion to table this until we have an ability to contact the local shelters and discuss with them what this organization has done for those local shelters. In all fairness to your organization, because you gotta be an upstanding guy, you've been here before. So, and you've talked about what you've done for these local shelters at length. So, I'm thinking that you're probably a pretty upstanding guy, so I think we should talk to these local shelters and let's get some information from them and find out how much money you've provided to those local shelters.
We don't give money, we provide jobs to the homeless that live in the
That's
shelters.
right.
Okay,
and
so
Well-
you don't
give
provide
living
money.
accommodations
There's
as well.
jobs.
Right,
Okay.
we
But
we
still
provide.
need to talk to the shelters.
I real quickly would
I
like
think
to
they
say,
should
we
be.
provide more than jobs, and we also have to provide shelter. We have a shelter in Bay City that's currently under construction, so we provide shelter. We provide food, we provide clothing, but we go to the shelters to provide the jobs. That the whole premise is rather than giving people a place to stay, and then at 9 o'clock in the morning say, get out and go wander the streets and be vagrants, literally, for the most part, we're saying, do something, be proactive, change your life, go to work, do something
To earn administration fees.
to earn a paycheck. And we're very strict, so we're trying to change these people's thinking. We're dealing with a lot of people who are addicts, people who have been convicted of crimes in the past. They're not easy people to deal with, but they're worth it. They are worth it. They're worth this fight right here. And this fight will not stop just here. What you have to understand is you reduce homelessness, you reduce crime. Plain and simple. Statistics show it. There is a direct correlation. You increase, there's so many benefits. And for someone to call into my character, my morality, my integrity, I think that's very questionable.
Why don't
So
you
I'd
do
like
it
to make a
different?
motion
And
to
I-
table this until we have such an opportunity to
Now,
discuss at
we-
length with
we-
the local shelters.
We only have,
Supervisor, their comments are out of order at this point. We have
Yeah.
a motion on the floor.
Right, yeah, so hold on a second here.
If we could
There-
address
yep.
what you had started off with.
Yep, just a moment, hold on a minute. I've tried to be as liberal as possible to give you a chance to comment. It is not our policy to engage in debate, and there is no motion on the floor, and we typically do not even open up public comment. You might have noticed throughout the meeting, because you've been here, until we make a motion, there is no public comment. However, it was the attorney's request that we ask you a question, so I did open up the floor, and I've tried not to gavel you or restrict your ability to share your perspective. However, there is a point of order here, and that is that a motion was made, and we'll address it if there's a second, and consult with the attorney, and at that point, we can open up the floor again for public comment.
I'll
So-
second that motion.
All right, so can you repeat your motion, please?
I would like to table this agenda item until we have an opportunity to discuss at length with the local shelters, this organization,
All right,
to determine whether they
all right.
should be granted this.
Okay.
please just keep in mind that
Yep,
before
so
your
hol-
next.
Hold on a second, just hold on a second, please. So you have a motion to table, and it was supported by, Mr. York.
So I do have a
no,
question for.
If I could,
Oh, I'm sorry.
please, please.
Just had a question.
I also have a question for Mr. Huth. The concern I have is this, and this is truly the standard by which the courts, I believe, have measured this. Does our investigation lead to, I've given you numbers that I've gleaned from the 990. I'm happy to make that available. Now, let's just go out on a limb and say that the information that I gleaned from the 990 is accurate. And let's say that less than 14% of this has gone in the form of aid other than the form of employment, okay? And let's say that our research suggests that. There's nothing in our policy that says, well, since you're not giving a certain percent, we'll hereby deny you. So the question is, I'm certainly not opposed to the notion of saying, look, let's take a minute and review this. So I'm not trying to take away any board members' rights, but I guess I'm just fast forwarding to, let's say your research finds out the most horrible answers possible, and that the 14 is too high, and they only give away 6% to charity. What action might we as a board take at that point?
Deny their request to solicit money in our township.
Right, and
They're
so
not
now,
giving
so
money
now
back
then
to
I'm
their-
going to
their
ask
local
Mr.
shelters.
Huth, in the event that we were to say, our research suggests that the level of giving is horrible and inadequate by our standards, we therefore deny the request. What would you anticipate at that point, Mr. Huth?
Well, I would ask you, in your hypothetical, you mentioned it doesn't meet our standards, so my first question is, what standard was that?
Right, and that's the whole point, is our policy doesn't acknowledge a threshold or a level, or, so just as a point of clarification, If as a board, we adopted a policy that said we would allow no street solicitation of any kind for any organization, that would be a completely separate matter, because it's each group. And while we may say, well, we're familiar with our Knights of Columbus, or the American Cancer Society, or the firefighters when they've collected, during different events, in different times, the reality is, we've never said, well, we apply that standard. We may say, well, we're familiar with them, or we're satisfied, or we're comfortable with that charity. This isn't one we are familiar with, but our policy doesn't, and the First Amendment, in essence, similar to this issue with the sign ordinance, we can't say, well, based on that content, we're going to not allow someone to collect
Are you
without
asking me
violating.
to change my motion to put a moratorium against any street solicitation for 6 months?
No, I'm not asking
That's the
anything.
next
What
thing
I-
that comes.
No, absolutely.
Because that's
I'm
my
not-
next motion.
Right, I got you. I'm not asking for anything. What I'm saying is I'm merely trying to understand that tabling the request and doing the research is gonna lead to us making a decision to say, well, the research led us to believe that the charity is great, or the charity is not so great. But at that point, my point is that our policy doesn't allow us to say, well, this charity is great and this one's not so great, so we'll say yes to one and not the other. The First Amendment, based on Mr. Huth's advice, prohibits us from making that distinction.
Okay, so this is what I will say. This goes down to the basic definition of a charity. What is a charity? That's what we're talking about here. Charity, definition, the voluntary giving of help, typically in the form of money to those in need. That definition doesn't mean that you're employing people and getting a fee for that. That means you're getting money
The NFL.
and then you're giving it back to people that are in need. They are not doing work for that money. That's called an employee.
AAA and the NFL are nonprofit organizations.
Well, I do understand that.
Yeah.
That's
This
something for
moratorium
the,
is
I'm
coming
just,
next, so.
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
that
it mo-
If I end up in court, my discussion is solely on,
Just
I don't,
address the board.
I don't believe
Yeah.
that.
That's
this
something
is
you'd
a
have to take
charity
up with the
based on
state
the
attorney
definition.
general.
Mr. York, again, we said,
Well, no,
point of
I'm-
order, we're not engaging in a
I'm
debate.
not
We can
engaging-
have a
I'm-
discussion, but we're
all
not
right, so
asking for
I'm-
input.
this is my thought. The definition of a charity is people collect money, the firemen, whatever ABC, whatever charity collects money, and then they go and help whoever it is, the homeless, heroin users, women that are sexually abused, they help Turning Point, whatever that is. People can see you collect money, and then your money goes to a worthwhile cause. When I put my money in somebody's shoe, or the fireman, or wherever it might be, for the autistic children, whatever it is, I assume that my money is actually going to help people that are actually in need. I am not putting my money in thinking, oh, I'm giving this guy a job by putting my $20 in the bucket. And that's all that I'm saying. That does not seem to me to be the definition of charity. I do charity because it just feels good. And I'm helping somebody in need, and I'm not asking for anything from them in return. That's the definition of a charity to me. Now, my board members might have a different
Mr.
thought
Supervisor?
process. I don't know.
I would like to
That's just
retract
me.
my motion,
Okay,
and I'd like to make a new motion to put a moratorium against any charitable organizations collecting money on the street side for pay. They must be volunteer only.
That's fair.
We can put a moratorium forward for anything, and I believe that if someone's gonna collect money for a charity, that it should be on a volunteer basis. I believe any organization that collects money on behalf of a charity should do that on a volunteer basis in this township, and that's my motion.
all right. So if you've retracted your motion, and motion to pass a moratorium on street solicitation.
Volunteer basis only.
So you're not really passing a moratorium per se, it's more of an amendment of the policy to set the standard to
Well-
allow for,
I don't want any street solicitation unless it's volunteer only,
correct. So a moratorium is similar to, like when we adjust the,
the sign.
yeah, so it's not really a moratorium, you're more proposing an
Well,
amendment
Okay,
to the policy.
whatever works.
Rob, does that work or no?
I
don't know.
can't, I'm just I'm listening to all this, and I can't understand how that's gonna work in the sense that they've applied 45 days
Exactly.
prior to this date.
60.
And now you're gonna try to institute something later.
Right, and so
I
let me.
don't necessarily like this any better than anybody else, but
And a point, I think it's important that I make this point to my fellow board members here. Ever since 2011, I've shared with this individual on each application the fact that the experience was a negative experience, and I think the process of going before the board may become a negative process. But I've never denied an application. Every time they've applied in the past, they've voluntarily withdrawn their application. In this case, this came with a letter from a law firm. I can tell you, and I stated earlier, I can't think of another time when a charity said, we'd like to solicit, and here's our letter from our law firm stating our First Amendment rights. In addition, in the past, when this charity appeared, for example, before the Roseville City Council, and I believe in some of our other Macomb County communities that Mr. Huth had some working relationship with, this issue has come up. Keep in mind that of all the items that you've seen me bring before the Board of Trustees, none of them have ever looked like this, because I cannot point to any other time when I have prepared a written statement prior to board action. I am here proposing the action because I believe that I've exhausted every possible angle to prevent this, short of incurring a lawsuit and becoming a protracted legal fight. And there is a point when I feel that I have the right, as a supervisor, as a citizen, and as a resident, to state facts that I've gleaned about this organization and allow our citizens to make the choice themselves. But there is a point where I believe if I take action so strong as to put us at risk of litigation, I've probably exceeded what I should do. No matter, keep in mind, I know how you feel because I feel the same way. And I felt that way for a long time. And I have documentation, and I've gone online, and I've done some research, and I've sat and watched YouTube videos and looked at agendas from other meetings in other municipalities. And I've talked to municipal leaders, fellow supervisors, and the like in other communities. So I've tried to do the research, and I've tried various angles with Mr. Huth to try to accomplish what it is that I know you want to accomplish, because I want the same thing. The problem is after all of that, I've gotten pretty clear legal advice from Mr. Huth saying, if you want to avoid litigation, you should approve this. Now, that doesn't prevent us, as Mr. York said, we each have First Amendment rights, and we have the right to talk about this issue. However, I'm not comfortable taking an action that's going to set us up for future litigation.
Well, you're assuming that, right?
It's going to set us up. I didn't say it will
we've had-
happen. It won't
I mean,
happen.
we've had this argument so many times that, every time someone sends us a letter that they may or may not sue, everybody just buckles. I'm pretty confident that at court, this charity is gonna find out that their definition of a charity isn't a definition of a charity. Based on common,
We're willing to
based
try
on just
that.
common knowledge of charity.
Mr.
But
Supervisor,
several municipalities have done that, which is
Well,
why
and-
there's case law,
and-
because they feel the same as we do.
And I understand that. So let me ask you, Mr. Ruth, has this charity ever sued a municipality and won?
I don't know the answer. I know the,
Well,
know
it's
the
probably no, because if they did, the Bodman letter would say, not this rigmarole that they have, because the letter doesn't really say that, it says they can sue based on ABCD, but it doesn't have any concrete, this is what you need to do.
my research was not what they have done specifically. My research is what they are entitled to do and what the current state of the law is. That's what I did.
That's fair enough. That's fair
Mr.
enough.
York, first of all, the notion that we buckle at the
Threat of a lawsuit.
threat of a lawsuit must not be true given our legal expenses. I mean, we've been in court, well, we have, and I've seen us be taken to court, lose significant sums of money because of actions, maybe not necessarily by the board, but because of our employees. And I've had residents stand up and look us in the eye and tell us that's been an incredible waste of money. Now, we've just heard our attorney advise us that there is a likelihood of litigation. And even if we were to prevail, that will cost us money. Mr. Brado, no disrespect to your motion, but it seems to me like the horse has left the stable. And that if we need to tighten up our ordinances, let's do that, but let's do that, in a manner that doesn't tempt someone to, because we've already gotten the application. It
Like
just
our
seems-
billboard.
I'm not the lawyer, but that seems problematic to me. And I agree with everybody on this board about, the state of this particular request, but I also don't think that we are in the business of defining what constitutes an acceptable charity, what percentages of and I'm very concerned about that, and I am not looking to entertain a lawsuit whether or not we think we can even prevail. I don't want the expense of that discussion. If we need to, let's tighten up our ordinance after this is done, and then prevent something like this from occurring in the future.
But keep in mind, I think, and I think it's important to understand, I don't hear any board member not exhibiting the same passion over this issue that we all are. I've been talking about this and working on this and, taking a look at it for quite some time because I've stated, I'm very uncomfortable. I do not believe, as I said, I do not believe that this charity's operating model would meet the definition of charity for most of our residents. That's plain and simple. I do not see this model of operation as a model that our residents would be comfortable with. I believe if a majority of people pulled up to that intersection and they knew the facts that I know, they wouldn't give a dime. However, like Mr. Batanti, I'm not comfortable pushing that to the brink of incurring significant cost to the township to be able to make that point. I'd like to try to make that point in other ways, and I believe that's, I do have rights, just like you and everyone else, but I do not believe that, that this fight is worth fighting.
And I think
based on our legal advice.
and I think it's important to note, that there are options available for any of us or any individual. Unfortunately, it's the IRS that decides whether or not they're a charity, and then the state attorney general reviews charities in the state of Michigan.
Oh, Bill's
I
gonna get a
know-
call
hey,
from me.
I know the attorney general is investigating one now. There is a method in which you can make applications to the attorney general's office to review charities. There's ways you can make complaints to the IRS, but ultimately it was their decision that said, we're gonna give them a 501c3.
517-373-1152 is the phone number you're looking to call. I talk to them quite a bit myself.
Anyway, the.
No banter, please.
The,
Thank you.
Yeah,
the,
just, yeah.
the request, I think, is distasteful to all of us, because I don't think anybody views paying people to be a part of your organization and providing no real job training to help these people who are possibly doing this. Panhandling is not a job skill that translates well outside of panhandling. But, given the situation we're in, and we have a motion on the table here from Mr. Brado to amend the policy, I would ask that you amend your motion to say that we approve this per their request and per their agreement to hold their solicitation in harmony with our policy, and to direct the township attorney to review our policy to see if there's ways that we can tighten it up moving forward.
No, I won't. I'll just retract my motion.
Okay.
So Judge Miller said that, when I was in a lawsuit, that cloaked in governmental immunity. So I'll ask the question, you referred to Mr.
Hang on a
Free's
second,
office.
Hey, hold on.
I'll-
We're not engaging in asking questions. We don't wanna ask questions. The public comment is closed.
We ask questions all of the time, Ken.
Yeah, we're not looking to engage in debate. I hear that clear from the board on several cases, several board members saying, please, let's not engage
That's fine,
in a
Ken.
debate. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to approve the request for Second Chance Network to solicit June 10, 11, and 12 per our township policy regarding charitable street solicitation.
So, let me just ask a question. Our policy is that it only be done once a year. Can we add that to a motion? Can somebody construct a motion that we approve it per, or do we just say approve per policy, which limits it to once a year and?
Yeah, in essence, that's what I was trying to say with the addition of the dates, June 10, 11, and 12, which is the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that they've requested.
So I'll make the motion that we approve, is it Second Chance Network to solicit on a days in question, and that the policy be followed that limits that approval to a once-a-year basis. I don't know if we need to say something else.
Into the days of Friday,
Let's put
Saturday.
those
June
days
10,
in.
11, and 12. I'd like specifically in the motion, June 10, 11.
June 10, 11, and 12. I'm
Right,
sorry.
so I've got approve Second Chance Network to engage in street solicitation on June 10, 11, and 12 for their per policy once annual solicitation, right?
That's my motion.
All right.
And I'll
Good.
support that.
Got a motion by Mr. Patenti, support by Mr. Capro.
Roll call.
But just as further conversation to that motion, I will say it's not that I'm supporting their network. I'm not saying that residents should go out and support their network. Just
Trying
To
to
do-
follow the First Amendment.
Trying to
The
follow
courts
the
have
First
spoken on
Amendment.
this. And ironically,
And,
think we need to open
and
the floor to
further,
yeah, we do, absolutely.
and further, we'll address the,
Couldn't
Policy.
address that policy moving
At a
forward.
later date.
I think it's important to note that Mr. Schutte was involved in the case, I think that was in, Circuit Court of Appeals, was it?
Well,
Right,
we're
Federal
throwing
Court
around
of
the
Appeals?
attorneys general
No, no,
saying like, this is why we need to vote yes.
No, I understand, but I guess what I'm trying to
You know.
say is this, there has been an effort made on the part of other municipalities and other legal forces to try to address this issue when they believe they encounter a charity that they don't believe meets the smell test. So, I mean, this isn't the first go around on this.
I think
whether it's-
everybody knows me that I'm gonna stand on my principle, and
Sure,
I think
absolutely.
if you don't know that by now,
Absolutely, understood. We've had a fair amount of discussion as a board. If there's no objections, we'll open up the floor for public comment. And we ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes in length.
I would like to also, we're only 2.5 years old. Our goal is not to limit them only to soliciting. There's more monies come in than just to pay them. Like I said, it also provides shelter, food, clothing. But we're looking into, we work with Michigan Works, trying to get them involved in programs so they better themselves. This is only a stepping stone. This is only, in order to get out of your homeless situation, you have to take one small step at a time. And the first step, we believe, is working on your addiction, if you have one, and getting a job. And then you can take the next step. We are in no way, we do encourage the promotion of individuals within our organizations. We have further goals. The other jobs they have, they're currently renovating the shelter that we have. Every single solitary job that needs to be done, that can be done by a homeless person, we have them do. Every single one. Now, there are times when they're not simply qualified. Unfortunately, there is not a homeless person that we have that is within our grasp at this point that can do accounting, for instance. Sometimes you do have to hire other firms. And I would encourage the board, the trustees, to look further into, you're going to find about 90+% of organizations have paid employees, including the charities that collect out here. They have clubs, they have bartenders. People don't realize that they're also paying for political campaigns. One of the largest political campaigns against marriage rights, they come out here and they collect, and they hide behind something completely different. We are straightforward with what we do. We help the homeless, and we do it the best way that we know how, and that's to give them jobs, give them responsibility, give them shelter. I wish we would have brought some people here with us, because we have a girl that's living in the woods right now, and even though we provide her with a place to stay, she chooses to live in the woods, but she still works, and she is changing her life. We're just trying to do positive things, and it's very, very hard to hear. As far as people complain, just like the amendment on your agenda C, not everyone's going to agree with you. Not everyone's going to agree with the way that we do things. We don't expect you to. Let's give the citizens the right. Let's give them the ability to, if they want to donate, they can. Unfortunately, these people, whatever you guys vote, that people that don't want to pay the extra taxes are still going to have to. The people out there that don't want to donate don't have to donate. If they want to support the homeless cause and they want to know what we're all about, we hand out a card in the intersection that shows our email, our website, our phone number. If they have questions, they will know exactly what we're about. And you know what? Most people, out of all of the bad things, for every one bad apple out there that complains, there is hundreds of people that hug us, that come around and say positive, wonderful things. So you guys have people complain about you all the time. Should we remove you as board members? As members of the council? We're not going to be able to make everybody happy. That's not my goal. My goal isn't to make you happy. My goal is to help the homeless, period. That's my job.
Thank you.
There were a couple of things.
Are they in public comment? Or they-
Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
didn't realize that they were speaking in public
Yeah,
comment.
we open up the floor for public comment.
Go ahead.
I haven't even spoke 3 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead, you're fine.
You said that we had withdrawn our applications. We've been actually coming or applying since 2014, and we never have. We were actually told that, you told Michael, I believe it was, that you didn't want to put them on the agenda because we would be embarrassed by it. Those were your words, and we never withdrew our applications. And we put that in over 60 days ago, so if nobody had any information on it, I don't know why it wasn't given out. So yes, we did ask that we're on today's agenda because putting us off went past our dates for collection. As for what we do with the homeless, Michael has pretty much explained it, the jobs and everything, but let me just go a little bit deeper. Our shelter went into renovations in October, and our funds ran low. And we had people that needed a place to stay. We had them live in our home with us. We had 5 homeless people live with us. Okay, this is our heart. And for us to be called a scam, it kills me. You don't know what we do every day, what we do with these people, for these people. I mean, we are their voice. You know, people want to turn their head on the homeless. We won't. We'll stand up for them. I will take the beating, sir. Go ahead and give it to me. And tomorrow I will wake up and I will help 3 more people. I will do whatever I have to do. That's what we do. We're not a scam. We give our hearts and souls to these people every day because other people won't. We give them jobs. That's what they need to change their lives, is a job. Shelter, food, clothing, of course, as well, but that is what they need in order to make a change in your life. You need the necessities, and a job is one of them. How many people know of a place that's felony friendly? How many people would hire a felon to come and work on their house? We have people working on the Bay City shelter because they're people. Okay, I get it, 3 minutes. So thank you for listening. You know, we're caring people, and to be bashed like this was just horrendous. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Jim Senstock, 31698-1. The people that were just here, I hope you don't leave yet. I mean, it's kind of a unique situation. It's a unique charity. As I listened to them, I finally was started to get it. It's not my idea of what a charity is. I expect volunteers to go out and collect, but you know what? Having these people go out and collect to help themselves, not a single one of those homeless people is going to be able to organize their own 3-day attempt to solicit donations. They're not going to do it by themselves. They need somebody to do the organizing for them. These people are organizing it. It's rather unconventional. It's a unique and interesting idea on a charity. And apparently, the IRS and I would venture to guess when the Attorney General, if he's against it or whatever, somebody's going to have to make the decision on it. But I can see that they're sincere. I think that you made the right motion to allow them to have it. I will say this, though. I did notice that they were treated, and I'm saying this, I'm putting the township at risk here, but I'm going to say it anyhow. They were treated differently than any other charity that's ever come in front of you guys. Everybody else that comes in, the Knights of Columbus, the Pink Ladies, all that stuff, They all come in and they made their presentation to you. And then you guys responded and talked about it or whatever. This one started out, Ken basically grabbed it and says, this is what I want to say. Never gave these people a chance to talk, didn't say anything. So I'm going to tell you what, if you were to go in front of court, into a court, you'd lose your butt. You will, because you treated them differently. And that's wrong. Let them get up here, say what they have to say. You may not agree with it. You may not agree that they're a charity that you want them to be. But the fact of the matter is they're a charity, and they have the right to apply, and they did, and they applied timely. And I hear people sitting there gonna, basically tell them, well, we'll put it on hold or we'll table it. That's not the way to do it. They followed all the rules. In fact, you guys didn't follow the rules. You should not have spoke before they spoke, period. So I congratulate the couple people that did make the motion. You picked, I feel, picked the right motion for this particular instance, and be aware for the next time you deal with charities that you let everybody else speak. Just because you don't like one, don't stop them. Thank you.
My name is Patricia Paloma. I'm a resident of Harrison Township. I would first like to thank the chief, the fire chief.
Patricia, I'm sorry, I apologize for interrupting. Is this about the Second Chance Network?
Oh, no.
Okay, we will have public comments.
Oh, I'm
Once
sorry.
we're finished with this motion.
Oh, I'm
then-
sorry.
Yep, then we'll open the floor, so
You
that's
can
okay.
speak about this item.
Yeah.
Give us a minute and
Do you want me to tell you my
No, that's
opinion?
your choice. That's your freedom.
Can I give my opinion?
If you'd like to. But the point is that public comment is
I didn't have a
reserved for
good
the-
feeling.
Yeah.
My gut feeling wasn't, yeah, there was something that I didn't feel right. I give to the firemen, I would always give to the firemen or different things, but, yeah, my gut feeling wasn't a good feeling, so I think I would have to agree with everybody here. So that's my opinion.
Sure.
Could be wrong. Let me know when I can come back up and talk.
Absolutely. Yep, no problem.
probably
Thank
about
you.
a minute from now.
A couple of minutes.
Yeah, a couple minutes.
William Bardell, 19-year resident, new kid on the block, new breed. I like to just say about this charity. I like to hear a little something about life skills for your people that you do your charity work with. Life skills, that would mean knowing how to set a clock radio, for instance. Knowing how to set a clock radio, how to be on time for work, how to read 1/8 of an inch on a ruler. I'd like to hear a little more about life skills on a charity, but that's about all I got to say. And, you don't want to be on heroin, of course, or anything like that, but basically, good luck to the charity, and maybe you could teach some of these homeless, life skills, life coping skills. There's a need for welders, roofers, so hopefully your charity can teach them some life skills and some skills other than soliciting, and maybe the owners of the charity, you might want to be out there doing the charity work and not putting these people, I think they're a little bit vulnerable, at risk, and teach them some life skills, maybe opening up a welding shop at your shelter and teach them how to do some welding and how to do some metalworking, operate a lathe, and so forth. And thank you, and some life skills. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Desjardins, 27885 Riviera. I was just a little disappointed that you let them hijack our meeting. We knew right off the bat, Mr. Huth told you that you pretty much had to give them the opportunity to do their collection. We should have just moved ahead, gave them what they wanted, and we could have saved a whole lot of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no public comment, we'll close the floor for public comment. I'll try to address some of the issues. First and foremost, I've never denied Second Chance Network from appearing on the agenda. I have told them that I believe that the process of asking for permission could be a messy and disruptive process. I have said that. I heard the individual say their whole goal is to help people. Well, I've got an idea how they can help homeless right off the bat. I can find $28,114 that's available that went into their pockets that could go to the charity, to the homeless, and that would certainly help out a lot of homeless folks. We could probably pay for some life skills with 28 grand. A comment was made by one of the residents that we've treated them differently. I don't believe we've treated them differently. I believe the difference is they are different from any other charity that's applied for this permission in the past, and hopefully, ever again. As to whether or not I, as a board member, have the right to speak on an agenda item before there's a motion made, most typically, one of the last things we do as a board is make a motion. So for example, when we talk about the hiring, before we had a motion to hire, I, along with the chief, addressed the board to discuss things such as the financial analysis, such as the hiring process, where we stand in the budget for hiring. So that is a right, and not only a right, but it's what I'm supposed to do as a board member. So I am entitled to speak at a board meeting. As to whether or not, and a good question, whether or not we allowed them to hijack the meeting, I don't believe so. I see it rather different. I see an opportunity for them to explain their charity and for us to discuss how that charity functions, because as the applicant said, ultimately this comes down to the choice for each of us to choose to put money in that barrel or not. And the reality is, I know from human nature that when I see someone on the street, could be really hot out, could be cold out, but they're out there trying to collect money for charity, and I naturally assume that they're volunteering. I think this particular charity is different. Not that we're different, their mode of operation is different, and I wanted to give them the opportunity to explain that to us, and hopefully all of the residents in the township who may be driving through any of our number of intersections on June 10, 11, and 12. So I recognize the concern about allowing to hijack. I was more concerned about giving them an opportunity to speak and making sure that the residents were aware, and they can vote with their dollar bills. So,
But you know, the law doesn't say that we have to make it June 11th, 12th, and 13th.
10, 11, and
Or
12.
whatever it is, 10, 11, 12. We can make it December, 30, 31st, and January 1st if we want.
Sure,
There's
but-
nothing in our policy that says I have to give you the best
As long as
choices.
we've done that to other organizations in the same respect.
And that's the point. They came in writing and asked for a particular weekend. And I was concerned that denying them the opportunity to do that would be treating them differently. So that was the reason why I was on the board.
I apologize. Mr. Witt, would you have the minutes reflect that they have left now the meeting?
Yes, sir.
It's-
Actually, after the the residents, first
During
residents'
the
comments.
discussion, they did leave, so
Yep.
just so we have a note of that, please. Thank you.
Well, it's an open meeting. I don't know.
Yeah, all right,
No,
good.
We're not doing anything wrong. Meeting's still open. They didn't have to leave.
Right, I
But-
just wanted to reflect
Yeah.
later if there was an issue that they didn't think they had a proper opportunity. There's still public hearing at the end of the meeting too. They're not here for that.
Correct,
They left
understood.
voluntarily.
And I appreciate that, thank you.
I just,
Any other discussion?
we talked about, Mr. Shooty. And the gentlemen that are sitting in the audience, they'll understand this. I believe that Mr. Shooty just shut down, I believe I was reading a press release last week that a couple of charities were shut down that were doing the same sort of thing, but they were soliciting on the phone on behalf of the firemen. But the firemen were not getting any of the money. It was like 90 or 95% of the money was going to the people that were actually doing the work. So this, to me, sounds an awful lot like that on the surface. And I cannot believe that the one is good and this isn't, because they're exactly the same thing. The only difference is the one is on the phone and the other one is out on the street.
And I
And
think.
that's just my opinion.
Yep. And regardless of how this vote goes, I think it's important to note that I'm pretty sure the majority, if not 100% of the board members have seen to voice their distaste.
No, I understand. I'm just saying
this
about the
application.
lawsuit, right? This is very similar to two charities that were just shut down last week by Mr. Shooty.
And I think it's important to note that I don't think the vote we take tonight reflects the vote we make with our wallet when they're out there.
Sure.
That's correct.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, we've got a motion by Mr. Batanti with support by Mr. Caprell to approve the Second Chance Network to conduct street solicitation in Harrison Township on June 10, 11, and 12, subject to the township policy. And I heard someone ask for a roll call vote.
Yes, please.
All right.
Mr. Batanti?
Yes.
Mr. Caprell?
Yes.
Mr. Brado?
No.
Mr. York?
No.
Mr. Witt, yes. Mr. Verkest?
Yes. Thank you, Board. Now, Patricia, I'm
That
sorry.
does not preclude anybody from sitting out there with the sign.
Absolutely.
You can do your First Amendment rights too. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. So if you see a guy out there in a brace, make sure you wave. You can bring me coffee.
You guys are
'Cause I'm
very
gonna be out there.
refreshing that you disagree.
All right, at this time, we'll open the floor for public. We do have an additional agenda item, item H, which is a closed session item. But we typically take public comments before that so that everyone doesn't have to stay till after the end of the closed session. So the comments can be of any subject you wish, 5 minutes in length, and we just ask that you make sure you're close to the microphone so that everyone can hear you.
My name is Patricia Belamo, and first I would like to thank the fire chief for his kindness. He met with me today. Just a sweet, sweet man. Thank you, sir. Adam, thank you. And Ken, I had a very nice discussion with you today. Thank you for listening to me. I don't know if you feel that it's appropriate for me to bring this up to the city attorney, or should I just wait till you do it?
That's your choice as public comment. You can say whatever you choose.
No,
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry, and again, we don't typically engage, but you'd brought the matter before me. As I said to you, I would consult with the attorney, the fire chief, and then give you a response, but you can address it
oh, no,
now if you wish to.
then do you want me to wait?
That's totally up to you. I wouldn't tell you what you should do under public comment. I want to respect your First Amendment right.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, Lord.
Well, since you're talking so nice, I'm sure he wants you to carry on.
I will say you talked to Rob Sella from my office at length today.
Yes.
Rob
That's what
and
I
I
told
worked
you.
together.
I thought.
I did talk,
Yes.
and I have an issue, and the fire chief sent letters out to the people behind me on Campo or whatever it is. And went through a similar situation in Harper Woods. I had to end up, filing a lawsuit against the city council because they were not addressing it. I am an asthmatic. I've just been diagnosed with nodules on my lungs. I've already gone in for 2 CAT scans. I have to go in again in October. The smoke that is burning is coming into my home. I have to close everything up, even with the air. And I did talk to one of the gentlemen. None of them were here, but the one was very rude who worked in one of your offices. And he kept saying to me, well, there's an ordinance with the fire. And I says, I understand that. You have an ordinance with the fire pit. I says, but I have contacted a couple attorneys, and I was told the health and safety is a precedent over an ordinance of a fire pit. So this is what I wanted to bring up to you, because this gentleman sent stuff out, and they're still doing it. I'm at wit's end because, like I told your attorney, now if I end up in the hospital, if I end up getting sick, is the city of Harrison Township gonna pay my medical bills? Because I told Ken, told the chief, I have no problems, I will bring documentation in from my pulmonary doctor. Will not I brought everything and I was showing him some of my medical stuff, and I says, you know, when you can't breathe and this stuff is coming in, and I understand that for some people, you know, it's a recreational thing, but when somebody has a health issue, it overrides it. And I did bring this paper there for you to read, but I was told by legal that my condition overrides any ordinance. In fact, when I was in Harper Woods, one of the things that for the fire thing said that if a resident comes to you and states there's a health issue, that takes precedence. So this I wanted to bring up to you, since you are the attorney. And again, I thank you for your kindness. Ken, thank you for your kindness for listening to me today. If you want to get back with Ken, I left my number. I just want to see if something can be worked out. I would really greatly appreciate it.
I will respond to Mr. Verkest just as you requested, yes.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Thank you.
Paul Disjardin again from Riviera Street. I just wanted to let you know that, in case you don't know, on May 13th, 14th, and 15th, the Harrison Township Environmental Committee had a cleanup. We call it Nautical Coast Cleanup here in Harrison Township. Excuse me. We worked in Lanscrews Bay. We worked on the Murdoch Drain. We worked with Towboat USA and pulled up 15 tons of log into the Clinton River Cut there, the DNR. And I don't have stats for this recent cleanup, but to date, we have taken 315 tons of debris in the past 9 years. 315 tons out of, and we have all of that available if you want a copy. But so we're having success. The Harrison Township Environmental Committee is working hard for you, and we would look forward to some support in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, and I want to thank Bill Batanti. He was the only guy who was down there at the end of my street. I got pictures of him. He's in the waders throwing stuff in the hopper. He was a big help, and thank you very much, Bill. I mean it sincerely.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, well, this might seem like a shock.
Well,
You know,
let's,
I
let's
happen to
finish
read-
public comment.
Yeah. Is there any other
Okay,
public
well, then
comment?
I won't be nice.
We've just broken too many rules tonight.
Yeah.
All
I
right, so I was
stick to 'em.
gonna say, you know, and being nice, you know, you talk
There's-
about
there's
cleaning
public.
up, and Mr. Batanti, I happened to see a post at the South River School that Mr. Verkest and I think Mr. Tominello and I think Mr. Batanti and Mr. Witt were out helping the kids with the road cleanup.
Cleaning up the
Street
roads.
cleanup,
Yep.
so,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
William Bardell, 19-year resident, new kid on the block. I want to speak a little bit real quick. I see you got a closed session. I know nothing about what this closed session is going to be about, but I can tell you in my approximate 3 years or so of coming to these meetings, and I just want to say it one time, and I know the township has had trouble with different personnel, and there's been lawsuits brought against certain people, personnel. And I just want to tell you that in a job environment, and I just, like I said, I want to say this one time, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse. If anyone on this board feels that there could or may be a hostile work environment in any department, as the words of Barney Fife to Andy Griffith, nip it in the bud so you don't get lawsuits. Any work environment should be the type of work environment where your 18, your 19-year-old son or daughter can work at and is in a non-threatened environment. So I just want to tell you, if you think there's a problem, nip it in the bud, as the words of Barney Fife, once again. Another thing I want to talk about is I'd like to invite everybody to visit SaveLakeSinclair.org and Save Lake Sinclair Facebook. We had a meeting last week, talked to a lot of people. I'm doing some referencing on some of the information that I got, and I will present it to you guys. It was very interesting, and I'll have more information as time goes on. But again, I'd like to invite everybody to visit SaveLakeSinclair.org or Save Lake Sinclair Facebook. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Seeing no other, excuse me, seeing no other public comment, we'll close the floor for public comment and move back to board comment. I know there was a, excuse me, a comment made regarding the cleanup. Typically, Terry will give us numbers and we'll report that, and I hadn't received a report, so it was the reason why I didn't do it, but I know that this was a longer duration, and I know it used to be just a Sunday, then it was Saturday and Sunday, and so it seems like the event is growing, and we're appreciative of all the efforts of the volunteers that participated in that. You know, I had another note here, I can't remember what the issue was, so.
Must not be important.
No, must not be too important. I was trying to answer residents' questions, but all I wrote was fire, and I can't remember why I wrote fire. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It was the gal that had approached the board with the issue. So, when you were in my office, I was searching the Municode, or basically our ordinances, and I couldn't find where the issue about burning was referenced, and the reason is because in our ordinance, we've adopted NFPA 1, which is a fire code, National Fire Prevention Association, I guess, NFPA. Fire Protection Agency, that's a good one too. Just one of those. But either way, it's an industry standard organization, and they have a whole code for fire safety. So I don't know that that's unique to Harrison Township, so I think our ordinance is probably similar to many municipalities in that we've adopted NFPA 1. But I will talk to the attorney to see what options are available to us. I think it is important to note that currently, we don't have something in our ordinance that says that we could arbitrarily choose one fire versus another. We do say, you know, it's gotta be safe. You have to have an extinguishing source available. It has to be 50 feet from a structure. So there are rules, but right now, I could not find anything that currently says, and if the smoke, is causing someone a health hazard, that you can't have a fire. So we'll have to investigate that and see what's available.
This isn't the first time we've had this issue.
No, it comes up from time to time.
But I think a lot of times people are good neighbors. They work it out between them.
That's a majority of cases.
That's what you'd hope.
That's right.
I'll just leave it at that. That's what you'd hope.
Yep. All right. If there's no other board comment, I'd be looking for a motion to enter into closed session regarding the labor attorney's opinion regarding a firefighter personnel matter.
So moved.
All right. Is there support?
Support.
Motion by Mr. York with support by Mr. Battanti. Discussion? Hearing none, we need a roll call, Mr. Witt?
Yes.
Please.
Mr. York?
Yes.
Mr. Battanti?
Yes.
Mr. Brado?
Yes.
Mr. Capral?
Yes.
Mr. Tominello is excused. Mr. Witt, yes. Mr. Verkest?
Yes. I'll take a brief recess here.
So Wally in the cable room said, those who texted me, said they did the thing in Roseville with their attorney. Somebody's gotta stop them, guys. And I'm gonna tell you, when you have a thing, I'm just gonna say this,